Very well then. Today we are going to treat and clean and treat a pair of work boots. These are my Danner Quarry 8-inch non-metallic toe. Excellent boot, very highly recommended. I've put them through living hell pretty consistently, but like any leather boot, they on occasion need to be treated, and that's what we're going to do today. This boot I've already cleaned and treated, and you can tell if you look at the difference here. But I'm going to bring you guys along as I do the second boot here. I've also done these pieces here already. Normally when you do this, you're going to replace the laces with it. I have also replaced the laces pretty recently, but so I don't need to do it again. But normally when you would do it, you just replace the laces as a regular course of action. Just a note for anybody with these same boots, 84-inch laces is what you're going to want if you want the same size as the original. What you're going to need to do this is you're going to need a beer. I choose a Sierra Nevada IPA. Of course, I have a brush to clean the dirt off. This is probably a little coarser than what you really need, but it's all I got and it works effectively. You're going to need a rag. You might even choose to use two rags. One for the saddle soap and the other for the preservative. You're going to use, let's start with soap. You're going to use saddle soap. This is the one I choose. They're all pretty much on the same plane. Bought this on eBay for $2 or so. And then Obenov's leather preservative. This is my favorite. This is what a lot of people recommend. A lot of people that know a lot more about this stuff than I do. But yeah, I think I paid $7-8 for this on eBay or Amazon, one or the other. So let's get started. Move everything out of the way here. And you're going to brush the boot. Get all the dirt off of it. Especially down in the welt here. That seems to be where it accumulates the most. The other big place is inside the tongue. Just brush that stuff out of there real good. These boots are pretty clean. They don't take much, but a lot of times the boots are covered in mud. Normally what I do when my boots are that soiled is I'll take them outside and I'll scrub them with soap and water and let them dry for a day or two before I do this. You want them clean. You want them pretty clean. This saddle soap though is going to get the embedded dirt. Get that out of the way. It's going to get the embedded dirt out of the leather. So get some on the rag here. Normally what I do is I try to get an area covered and then I'll scrub. And you'll see here in just a second when I pull this rag up how dirty, how much dirt you're actually getting out. And you're not even getting all of it. I mean really you're not penetrating the leather that deep. But you can see it's dirty. So, like I said, pay pretty close attention to the welts, to the seams, any seams you have, because these are the weakest point of the boot. This is where the dirt collects. This is where you're going to have, if your boots do begin to leak, that's where they're going to leak first. Unless, of course, you damage your boot like I did with a pressure washer. And then that becomes an area of concern. Even though that didn't penetrate, you know, one day from the stress of just working in these boots on a consistent basis, it may breach. So clean them up pretty well. This is going to take a few minutes, so you're going to hear me just ramble while I'm doing this.
These, like I said, these boots really aren't that dirty. I keep my boots pretty clean. Take pretty good care of them. It's been too long since I treated them, mind you, but I do treat boots with care. I clean them when they get dirty. You know, if I spill oil all over them, then clean the oil off. But you hear a lot of people complain about boots don't last very long, but you know, look how they treat their boots too. You know, first off, they're not really buying boots that are even worth the time and effort it takes to take care to treat a pair of boots with respect. But you know, even if they treated those boots, and I'm not talking about like leather treatment, I'm just talking about general stewardship of the boots, they'd last a whole lot longer. Clean the dirt off of them when they get dirty, replace the laces, you know, don't abuse them. Treat your boots like you paid good money for them, even the cheap ones, and they're gonna last you longer, you know. So, I mean, I work in some pretty rough environments occasionally. You know, I do generator work, so I'm anywhere you can imagine. I'm on rooftops. I'm in, you know, the rain. I'm in the snow. I'm in basements. I'm in closets. I'm in dusty environments. I'm on job site, or you know, construction sites rather. In the woods. Everywhere. They put a generator anywhere. Now I can tell you where they don't put generators anymore, from what I understand, and that's on rooftops in New Orleans. And that is a direct result of Katrina. As you can imagine, as the levees broke and the floodwaters rose, a lot of places that had backup power then didn't, because they were flooded. The New Orleans hospital, I think, is one of those places that were a victim of generators that flooded, and people lost their lives as a result of it. So, I guess that's all I got to say about that. So like I said, get this saddle soap in here pretty good. Get as much of this dirt out of here as you can. Hopefully my head's not blocking your view. My bald head. My balding head. With my retreating hairline. Doesn't make any sense because Marines don't retreat. But apparently the hair didn't get the memo. I was going to say something really mean about the Army, but I'm not going to do that. Anyway, here we go. So, another thing you want to get the top, where you have a seam, the top of the leather, the exposed portion of the leather, get that pretty well. More so with the preservative than with the soap, because water can act, that's a lot more porous than the outside of the leather on the end there, and water can soak down into the leather and damage it. So when we go to put preservative on, you're going to want to pay attention to that. So wipe off any excess, maybe on the boot. Okay. And gotta make sure the camera's focused right. And let's move on to the preservative. So, move to the opposite end of the rag. Let's start applying the preservative. Now you're going to want to be really generous with this stuff. This is what's going to keep your boot waterproof. So, any cuts that you have in the leather, any seams you got in the leather, Load it in there, boy. Load it in. You know, this leather is going to soak this stuff up. I mean, big time. Especially if you haven't if you haven't done this before or you haven't done it in a long time. This leather, I mean, it's going to eat it up, boy. And you can see I'm piling this stuff on. It's shining a lot. Look at the boot I've already done. It's all soaked in the boot. Now that's good. You want that to happen because that's how you're protecting that leather, but it's crazy. Leather's crazy. It's like cow skin or whatever. Anyway. So, load this stuff in there, boy. Especially down around the seams here. Get that down in there. Welt. Keep the water out of these boots. I mean, if you got excess on here, now the saddle soap, you got excess on the saddle soap, you're going to want to wipe that up before you put this stuff on. But if you got excess preservative, don't wipe it up. Let it sit. Let it sit for, you know, a couple hours, soak up what it's going to, and then come back and wipe this stuff off of it. But give it every opportunity you can to soak up as much as it can. Because this is what's going to keep that leather soft and pliable, and it's going to keep it from cracking and falling apart. You know, the Danner boots that I had in the Marine Corps, they were rough leather. And I've never actually treated a pair of rough leather boots, but I am almost positive you can. I don't even need anybody to tell me that. If it's leather, I'm sure it can be treated. Anyway, it never did get treated. And back here on the back strap, I guess you call it, it cracked. And, you know, Danner wouldn't fix it. At least not at that time. Maybe it's because I was in Iraq. I don't know. But either way, I mean, I ruined a perfectly good pair of boots because I didn't take care of them. And I'm not going to do that again. And they were a dang good pair of boots. Dang good pair of boots. So, treat your stuff with respect. And it'll do the same to you. There ain't nothing worse than being on a site. Customer's got an outage. You ain't going home until it's fixed and your feet are wet. And you know, that's another thing. That brings up another good point. If you're in the kind of work that I am, where you're outside in the elements, it's especially important to have an extra pair of boots. You know, if it's gotta be, keep a cheap pair of boots in there. But if you can, buy a nice pair of boots, you know. And so, like these, like I paid, what did I pay? $280 or so for these. Well, you know, in a year or two, I'll buy another pair of boots just like this. These will become my spares, and I'll start wearing the other boots. Well, once the other boots get broke in to the point that these are, then I'll transfer back and forth. I'll wear these boots, and then I'll wear the other boots, and then these boots. But I'll always have an extra pair of dry, clean, waterproof boots on my truck at all times in case I get into a situation where my feet get wet. Nothing can demotivate you faster than having wet feet. I have never met a person that enjoys having wet boots. And if it's wintertime, you know, it could be a life or death situation. It could be, you know, keeping a limb or not. You want to, up here, like inside this loop in the back, where you got the rough leather, you want to treat that too. You want to get that preservative up in there. Because once again, you know, with that leather being rough like that versus smooth like the rest of this stuff, it has more surface area that the water can actually soak into. It's more susceptible Plus, this is polished. For the most part, it's polished and it'll repel water a lot easier, but that rough area won't. So once you're done, once you think you're done, go back over. And you want to look for any particularly dry spots in the leather. Hit it with a little more preservative. You know, pile it on. And these two, I don't think I got any preservative on these. Rub that stuff in there pretty good. I mean, this Obanoff's isn't the cheapest thing in the world, but let me tell you something, Jack. Your feet get wet, that stuff's gonna seem really cheap. And there you go. That's about the extent of it. Pile that stuff in there, boy. Let it sit. Don't even clean it out of the welt. Let these sit for the night, if you can. I mean, you can put the laces in it now. You can put the boots back together now if you'd like, but I'll let it sit overnight, go back over it, check inside these welts really well. I'll wipe up the most excessive anywhere where it's really pooled up, but lace them back up, put them on, and get rolling. You're gonna notice that the leather just gets, man, so much softer once you treat it. But this same technique and principles apply to all leather. It just it really makes it beautiful. So anyway, if you got any questions or comments, you know, send them to me. I'm open to criticism as long as it's constructive and clean. But yeah, like I say, if you got any questions or comments, just reach out to me. I appreciate you watching. I hope it was what you were looking for.